Welcome to the latest Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Thank you for all of your patience. I had a little bit of an issue with the last video. The problem is that I was not going to I tried to set up a live stream, set it up wrong, wasn't expecting to do one today. Then I was told that people were already in there in the live chat and even sending in super chats as well. So I thought I'd better get in here and do one after all. So apologies for everything. I think I've got the timing right on this one, and it's set for something like 2:30 in the morning too. I have had about 9 hours sleep in the last couple of days because of this Russell Wilson trade. So apologies for that. But look, promise you a mock draft. We'll get into it. I'll talk about some other things as well. If you have got questions at the end, please send them in. If you want a super chat as well to support the channel, please do. But we are going to do a mock draft here today. I am going to do all of the picks. It is not going to be a simulation because, quite frankly, the simulators that are on the internet at the moment, I don't think the rankings have caught up with what has happened at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. So I don't think we're going to do one of those simulations perhaps for maybe after free agency, 2 or 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, maybe when the simulators are maybe a little bit more up to date with their big board. So I'm just going to do you a mock draft. This is what I think about the players. I'm going to do it right up until Seattle's picking the 3rd round. So using the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator, which I think is the best one out there. And let's start with pick number 1. I think it's interesting that Jacksonville have tagged Cam Robinson again, which means that there's a decision to make here. Are they going to go for a big-time defensive end and go for a Kayvon Thibodeau or go for an Aiden Hutchinson, or are they going to really build up that offensive line? And I think that still, even though you could certainly see some benefit for them going with that pass rusher, they've got to protect Trevor Lawrence. He's got to be the priority for them. Even if they put Cam Robinson at left tackle again, I still think you could take Evan Neal and justify and play him at guard. I think he's got the potential to be a superstar at guard. I'm not sure he's going to be a great tackle. I think guard's actually his best fit. So, yeah, taking a guard first overall is incredible, but maybe you try him at right tackle first or you move Cam Robinson. But either way, I think you've got to protect Trevor Lawrence, and I think that will be the first pick there for Jacksonville, which makes it a very easy pick for the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson at number 2. And I think a very easy pick for Houston Texans at number 3. I've seen a lot of people saying that Kayvon Thibodeau, and I've seen this in mocks, could fall to the Seahawks at number 9, which is a tantalizing thought because it's very easy to get caught up in, oh, it didn't work out at the Combine and his stock's going to be falling as a consequence. And there's all this talk in the media about how teams are viewing him. Very easy to forget that at the start of the season, he was considered the definite number 1 overall pick and that people were calling him Myles Garrett light. So I think eventually, as time passes, and look, if you think back over the years, people were saying, how much did Jadeveon Clowney love football? What's his sort of mental makeup? What's his character like? He still went first overall. So I don't think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to fall too far. And I've got him going number 3 to the Texans. Then at number 4, I still think that when you look at the Jets, and yes, they've invested in the interior defensive line over the years, I still think that, Robert Saleh, you brought him in for the work that he did in San Francisco. I still think you need to build up your defensive line and make that really good for him because that's how it worked with the Niners. They had Bosa, they had Ford, they had Armstead, they had DeForest Buckner. They had a loaded defensive line and others. So I think Travon Walker here with the way that he tested the Combine, I think you can justify that pick in the top 5 now. He's not as productive. He may well flame out and not be as good as some of these other players, but the way that he tested, I think you'll take a chance on him there at number 4. Then you come to the New York Giants, and I think it's pretty clear that they're going to go offensive lineman with this one. They've pretty much stated that they've not done a good enough job protecting Daniel Jones, and they need to make some picks on their offensive line. I don't think they can take any risks with Carolina also expected to go offensive line by waiting to number 7. So I think in this position here, they'll go for Trevor Penning. I can see why they might prefer Charles Cross, but they've got a left tackle. And Cross, for me, is a left tackle. I don't think his knee bend's very good. And I've got him falling a little further than a lot of other mock drafts. And I think Akeem Ekwonu is just a little bit overrated for me. I'm not seeing, yes, he ran a 4.9 at the Combine. He's not an explosive player. His agility testing was very, very poor. I don't think he's as good as people think. I think he's a pure guard. I don't think he's a tackle. I think Trevor Penning's got everything in terms of athleticism and physicality. And I think he was born to play right tackle across from Andrew Thomas. So I think the Giants will go with Trevor Penning at number 5. At number 6, again, I'm not a huge fan. Oops, I clicked on his scouting report. Ekwonu there at number 6 to the Panthers. Again, as I said, I'm not his biggest fan, but there's a lot of talk that he will go very, very early in the draft. So not going to fight it. Going to put him there at the mock draft for the Carolina Panthers. Back to the Giants. Build up the defense. Sauce Gardner is getting a lot of publicity, isn't he? The way that people feel about him. I better just scroll this down a little bit so you can actually see the picks I'm running away. Sauce Gardner, number 7 to the Giants. They need a cornerback. And really a unique player. You know, when you saw his frame at the combine, very, very long, athletic. He ended up running in the 4.4s, albeit on a fast track. Doesn't give up a lot of yards. Could the Seahawks be interested in someone like that? I don't think so, because they've not drafted corners very, very early, and he's more of that traditional Seahawks corner rather than a man-cover corner, which is kind of what they've insinuated they're going to go for. Got some super chats coming in as well. Tony says, just a big thanks. Tony, thank you for your support for the channel. Much appreciated. And Darth Soldier with $5 says, I've got a sneaking suspicion that Seattle will botch the draft once again. Well, fingers crossed that they won't, Darth. I'm going to stay positive for now and hope that they're going to do a good job in this draft. Falcons are number 8. So what has happened to them over the last 2 years? They've traded Julio Jones, or the last year rather. They traded Julio Jones. And now Calvin Ridley has been suspended for a year, who they were going to trade away anyway. They could go with the pass rusher here. You know, this is a threat. You know, if you are a Seahawks fan and you're thinking, okay, you know, I've got my eye on a specific pass rusher at number 9, the Falcons are a threat. They need an edge rusher, and they could take one here and then take a receiver in round 2 and address that need there. Or they could sign a receiver in free agency, because there's quite a few of those available at a good age. So I'd be wary. This is a danger spot here for the Seahawks in terms of pass rushers. They could take one here. But in this mock draft, I'm going to have them taking Garrett Wilson. Ran in the 4.3s at the combine. Very good testing. Ran a lot faster than I expected. I'm going to have him go there at number 8 to the Falcons, which means that the Seahawks at number 9 are going to get the pass rusher that I've got my eye on the most in sort of these early days after the Russell Wilson trade. And it's Jermaine Johnson. I think I'll spend a little bit of time talking about him because it's the Seahawks pick. If you watch the Senior Bowl practices and you watch the way that he carried himself, not just in the way that he won so many 1v1 reps, he was the alpha male at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. And then he goes to the combine. He worked out very well, as did all of the linebackers. He was working out with the linebackers as opposed to the defensive ends. And there was a lot of energy within that group, a lot of noise. And he was at the heart of it all. And the on-field reporters and everybody who was in Indianapolis were commenting that Jermaine Johnson was the leader of the pack. And I think this is a great pick for the Seahawks for 2 reasons. One, he's a potential game-wrecking pass rusher. And even if he doesn't end up being, you know, an elite edge rusher, I think you put him across from Darrell Taylor, that's going to cause teams an awful lot of problems. And I think that looks like a really good young duo of pass rushers for the Seahawks. But I think also you are trying to build a new core now. Who are the leaders on Seattle's team? Bobby Wagner's gone. Russell Wilson's gone. Dwayne Brown might go. Quandre Diggs might go. Who are the new leaders going to be on this team? So for me, this number 9 pick, it's not just about getting somebody who is going to come in and do a job at a certain position. If you can get it, it's about getting somebody who can almost set the tone, be a leader, be the heart and soul of your locker room, who you can build around in terms of their character and their leadership, not just their talent. And that's why I think Jermaine Johnson is an ideal fit with this pick. You will see that Pro Football Network had him ranked about 22nd in their list, and a few other sites have got him ranked lower in the first round. But I think he's very much in this range because he's at a fantastic Senior Bowl. He showed well at the combine. I'll be keeping an eye on the Florida State Pro Day for his agility testing because he didn't do any of that at the combine. That's going to be important for the Seahawks. But right now, I'm very comfortable putting him at number 9 to Seattle there to create a partnership with Darrell Taylor. So Jermaine Johnson there at number 9. We've had another super chat from Danny. Kayvon or Stingley, Gardner, take QB next. Well, we've not gone in that direction. Kayvon's gone at number 3. You could have taken Derek Stingley there, and you know you can make a compelling argument for that because he's a very, very talented cornerback. It's not worked out for him for the last 2 years. I thought he was going to be a top 5 lock with what he showed in that first season with LSU, and everybody played well for LSU. It hasn't really worked out for him. There's a lot of talk that he's going to fall. I'm going to choose not to ignore that here, and I'm going to have him falling a little bit he is an option, but the Seahawks under Carroll have not taken a cornerback any earlier than the end of the 3rd round when they took Shaquille Griffin. So I don't think they're going to do that here. With the Jets, what are the Jets going to do? Well, they've already taken a pass rusher, so I'm not going to give them David Ajabo as well. But I mean, technically, they could do that and get 2 edge rushers. But if they've traded away Jamal Adams, looks like Marcus May is going to be on the way out, and I want to have them taking Lewis Seen. I think he's a tone setter. He's physical. He's a reckless hitter who just loves to get forward and hammer people, and he can set the tone. Robert Saleh was in Seattle when Cam Chancellor was there, unless I'm mistaken. So he knows what that kind of safety can do for a defense. So I'm going to put Lewis Seen there. And then with the Redskins, I have not called Washington that name once since the name change. And for some reason, I've done it now, and I have no idea. I blame the Commanders name for that. So apologies for saying that. But the Commanders are going to take Kyle Hamilton, the safety there. He did not run very well, which is why he's dropped a little bit here. But I'm not sure that he's going to drop and drop and drop and drop and drop. I think he's going to go between 11 and 20, let's say. I think someone's going to take him for the good tape and what he's shown, and he flies to the ball on tape. I was very surprised by that 40 time. And remember, guys, if he has a pro day and runs a lot faster, then teams who liked him first will convince themselves to that he is faster. That time is going to essentially be what he is. So I think there's a chance that he could still go relatively early, but not as early as a lot of people were thinking. Some people called him the best player in the draft. I never quite got that. But he's at number 11 there to the Washington Commanders. Minnesota, number 12. Jordan Davis, I wanted to get him in the top 10. Since the Combine, I was just fully intending on putting him in the top 10. Thought about it with Atlanta. Had a look elsewhere. But, where do you put him? I mean, if I just sort of go through the list here, yeah, you could put him at number 1. A nose tackle at number 1, I guess that's no different than if you're playing Evan Neal at guard than taking him at number 1. You could do that. But if he's a 2-down player, you're not getting the value there. And then you kind of go down through the list. Number 3, look, they're a Patriots-led front office. They've all come from New England. And they very famously had a very good nose tackle for a long time. Maybe they sort of see Jordan Davis as being that kind of guy as well. Maybe. I don't quite see it. Jets aren't going to take him. Giants aren't going to take him. They've got those players already. Carolina is invested in their defensive line, interior defensive line with high picks. New York again. Atlanta, potentially. Seattle, potentially. But the Falcons desperately need a receiver, and the Seahawks desperately need an edge rusher, and then you're back to the Jets again. And Washington aren't going to take another interior defensive lineman, are they? So for me, it's hard to sort of place him in the top 11, but I think eventually someone's going to say the value's too good, and I wonder if that might be Minnesota at number 12. Easy pick here for the Cleveland Browns. They need a receiver. Chris Olave ran well enough to justify a spot in the top 15. He goes here to Cleveland to be a receiver for them as they try and take a step forward on offense, because they had a bit of a disappointing year outside of, obviously, the running game in Cleveland. On to number 14, Baltimore. Derek Stingley comes off the board here. Someone's going to take a chance on him eventually. Look, Pro Football Network are ranking Derek Stingley as number 21st player in the draft, almost certainly because of the way he's fallen and because he's been injured. I think he's a lot better than that, but I don't see him necessarily going in the top 10 with all this talk doing the rounds. Then you come on to the first of 3 picks for Philadelphia. They need a pass rusher amongst a handful of needs. I'll give them David Ajabo here. They're straight back on the clock. I'll give them a cornerback, Trent McDuffie. The thing about the Eagles, it's great having 3 picks, but for me, they're just on the outside of where some of the better players are in this draft. If I was them, I'd much prefer to sort of be in this kind of range, sort of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think once you get to sort of 15, 16, you hit a bit of a lull. So you've got a bit of value at the end of the top 10, I think. And then sort of in the early sort of 10, 11, 12 range, then you've got a bit of a lull where you think, the players I'm taking here are not going to be any different than the players that take 10 picks back. And then you've got the value that comes back again. And the problem for the Eagles is all 3 of their picks are in that sort of no man's land area where you think the value is not quite good for where you are. And yet, you could trade down, but you're going to trade down 3 times. You're going to have like 100 picks. I mean, what are you going to do here? So it's quite difficult for the Eagles. It's quite unsatisfying. And if you're going to have 3 picks, you kind of want at least 1 right at the top. And they haven't got that. So Ajabo and McDuffie for them. Now, the Chargers have just traded for Khalil Mack. That is the breaking news in the last hour or so. They've just traded for Khalil Mack, and this will change things for them a little bit in terms of they've got 2 edge rushers. They don't have a second-round pick. I'm sort of looking online and seeing what their plan is. Apparently, they're going to go quite big at cornerback. To some of the reporters are saying that, so that will fill that need there. The one thing that they've really lacked, and I watched a video about Brandon Staley's defense on YouTube not so long ago, is that sort of interior rusher. So I still think, even though Khalil Mack has come in, that they will go with Devontae Wyatt, who they've got rated at 58. There's no way that Devontae Wyatt is going to be on the board with the 58th pick or anywhere near that after what he's done at the Combine in the Senior Bowl. So I think if you put him in the interior with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa off the edge, all I would say to that is good luck, Russell Wilson, when you play the LA Chargers twice a year. I mean, that is a loaded division that Russell Wilson has traded himself into there. Devontae Wyatt to the Chargers. Number 18, New Orleans. Could they go quarterback here? Potentially, if they really like one of them. But if they lose Teron Armstead, they're going to need a tackle. Charles Cross comes off the board here for me at number 18. Don't like the way he doesn't really bend his knees. He's athletic, but I'm not 100% sold on Charles Cross personally. Moving on to number 19, Philly again. I've got them taking Jameson Williams. If he was not injured, if he did not pick up that injury in the bowl game, he could easily be in the top receiver in this draft, and he's like lightning as well. So I think that he's going to fall a little bit because of the injury, but not too far. Curtis has sent in a very generous super chat here saying, buy your wife a nice bottle of wine. You're the best, Rob. No, thank you, Curtis. That is very generous. And thank you for everything that you do with the blog and helping me get things out there. It's much appreciated, man. That is very, very generous. And Darth Soldier's got another super chat here. Bold prediction. Seattle reaches for a mediocre running back in the first. That's not going to happen, Darth. They're not going to do that at number 9. Take a Trey Flowers copy and a tight end in the second, hits on linebacker in the third, and ignores the O-line until the 5th. Well, look, I'll share some free agency thoughts before we finish, but I genuinely think that they're going to go. I think they'll go O-line in the free agent market because that is what they've done over the last few years. They've concentrated on veteran offensive linemen. Yet Damian Lewis is the exception. But apart from that, it has been going and getting Brandon Shell, Dwayne Brown, Gabe Jackson, Brandon Shell, people like that. So I think they will look at the veteran market again. And I think they may concentrate on youth on defense, but we'll see. Well, maybe have a little chat about that a little bit later on. Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going with Malik Willis here. I think that Mike Tomlin tips his cap a lot of the time with the picks that they're going to make in Pittsburgh. I remember fondly the NFL Network's coverage of TJ Watt's pro day, and Tomlin was practically stood next to TJ Watt for the whole event. And then I remember him going to the Michigan pro day when Devin Bush was working out there, doing exactly the same thing. And then at the Senior Bowl, I seem to recall him being stood very, very close to Malik Willis, stomping around, watching him play, very evidently very close, getting a good look. So if the quarterbacks last, and they might do, I've not got any quarterbacks graded in round 1, so I don't see why they would go much earlier than this. I think Malik Willis at number 20 could potentially be a fit there for the Steelers. And maybe they bring in a veteran, so there's no pressure to start Willis in year 1. But I think they could easily take him there at number 20. 21 and the Patriots. Well, if they lose J.C. Jackson, then they're going to need a cornerback, aren't they? There's a few other needs, but I've got them taking Kyler Gordon here with number 21. They've got him rated at 69. I know he didn't run very well at the Combine, but I still think he's got every chance to go in the first round with what he has shown. 22 and the Raiders. Travis Jones, who's ranked 73rd overall here, but I'm going to put him at 22. There just aren't many human beings who can be 6'4", 325 pounds, running the 4.9s and have a 4.50 short shuttle. That is just incredible. He could go earlier than that, frankly, based on his physical profile. And if he lasted into round 2 and he was there for the Seahawks, runs the podium because that's a difference-making athlete that we're talking about there. Chandler Jones is probably going to leave the Arizona Cardinals. I've got them taking Boya Mafe as a pass rusher here to replace him. You will notice that George Karlaftis is not off the board yet. I think he's got short arms. He's got quite a stocky frame. He didn't have a great combine. I don't see any reason to sort of have him off the board at this point. They've got him ranked 8th overall. I don't think he's going to go that high. Cowboys here at number 24. This is an interesting one because La'el Collins is apparently being touted for a trade. It's that the Cowboys can't trade him because of the financial situation. If they trade him, it's going to cost them a fortune. But if they do him as a post-June the 1st cut, then I think they save something like $10 million or something. So if he is on the way out, he's probably going to get cut. That leaves a hole at right tackle. I think that Abraham Lucas is a lot better than a lot of other people. They're saying 72. That's a great example of that. I think he's a first-round pick, and I'm going to put Abraham Lucas here to the Cowboys at number 24. Buffalo at 25. I'm going to stick with the O-line here. Zion Johnson is not a player that wowed me on tape, I've got to be honest, or at the Senior Bowl. I thought he had a very overrated performance at the Senior Bowl. But when you turn up to the combine and you jump a vertical and a broad and bench the way that he did, he was one of the most explosive testers that we've seen on the offensive line at the combine in years. You generally end up going in the first round. So I think there's a chance that Buffalo will plug him in as a starter quite early with the number 25 pick. And then I get to 26, and I'm going to propose a trade with this pick. I'm going to have Tennessee trading out of this spot with the Seattle Seahawks, because my thought process, and I was playing around with this simulator. We'll see what it does. It doesn't always let you have the same trades, but I was playing around with this not so long ago, and it allowed me to do this. So we'll see if it does it again, but we might have to adjust this on the fly. But teams generally are quite happy to move out of this kind of range. I mean, think of all the years when the Seahawks are picking, I don't know, in the 20s, in the mid-20s, or even the late 20s or in the 30s. And they would trade down, and they might get a third or they might get a fourth to move out of the first round or to move down in the first round. Teams generally are quite happy just to move down. And with the Titans, if you look here, the Titans pick at 26. They don't pick again until 90. And the meat of this draft is around sort of that between 26 and 130 is kind of where the meat of this draft is. So I think they're going to want another pick in that range. Now, somebody else might offer them a better option than the Seahawks, but I'm just going to see if 108 will do it, and see if that will get it done and get Seattle to move from 40 up to 26, and it gets accepted. So for the cost of a fourth-round pick, I'd rather not lose the fourth-round pick. I mean, they had 2 fourth-round picks and they gave one to Denver. I have no idea how the Seahawks didn't manage to retain that fourth-round pick. It'd be a lot more palatable to give a fourth-round pick up if you had 2, but I'm going to have them take a quarterback here. So if you find a quarterback that you like, I'm not quibbling over a fourth-round pick to go and take them. Before I make the pick, super chat from Kyle. Thanks for all you do here, Rob, and on the blog. Can the Seahawks still be big players in free agency without the draw of Wilson? Money talks, Kyle, and you've got to recruit. You know, they're going to have to get out there, and they're going to have to speak to people, and they're going to have to pay up. They've got money to spend, of course, because of what's happened over the last couple of days with Bobby Wagner going and with Russell Wilson going. They've got about 120 million, I think, to spend next year. So you can even low year 1 cap hit, bigger year 2 cap hit to make that fit into everything. So yeah, they've got the money to go out there and be players in free agency, but they're going to have to sell it to these players. Well, they're going to have to sell them on the vision. But I'll just remind people that in 2011, the Seahawks did not look like a contender at all. And they managed to bring in Sidney Rice and Zach Miller and Robert Gallery. 2 of those free agent signings worked. So, you know, we'll see. They've done it before, bringing free agents in. And I'd like to see that, you know, go and get guys in the mid-20s who are not old, not aging, that you can build around for the future. Okay, 26. You've moved up from 40. You've spent a fourth round pick to go and do it. And I'm going to have the Seahawks taking Matt Corral. Why have I got the Seahawks taking Matt Corral? Why do I think that they are going to believe that he is the future there? A few reasons. First of all, he's very, very, very competitive. And if you watch the videos that Ole Miss have put on YouTube from behind the scenes, you will see that he's very, very, very competitive. And I think Pete Carroll will like that. I was reading an article earlier today about how teams view Matt Corral. And to be perfectly honest, in that article, they said that he interviewed okay at the combine. Not great, just okay. But one of the things they did say is that he and Lane Kiffin have an outstanding relationship. Like, they love each other. And Pete Carroll's always very close to Lane Kiffin. And I think Lane Kiffin will give him a very honest review of Matt Corral. And if he genuinely really does love Matt Corral, I imagine that review is going to be very, very positive. So I think leaning on that a little bit is one thing. The Seahawks have drafted one of Lane's quarterbacks not so long ago, Alex Magoo, when he was at Florida Atlantic. Lane Kiffin was the coach when he was there. So they've drafted from this offense. They've taken a player that Lane Kiffin has coached. So I think there's a decent chance that they will have good intel, and if Kane loves him, positive intel on Matt Corral. Second thing, he's very mobile, which is something that they seem to value. So he can make plays as a scrambler, he can improvise, he can run with the ball, he needs to learn how to slide, but not take as many hits. But he is a very capable athlete. He's got a strong arm. You wouldn't expect that from a guy who's 6'1", 215 pounds, but he has got a very strong arm. He's got a very quick release, good throwing motion. It generates a lot of velocity on his throws. So surprisingly strong arm. And we know that John Schneider likes tools, and he has got those tools in terms of being an athlete and having the strong arm. Now, the concerns are that his offense, they make the bed for him quite a lot. And I wouldn't claim to be an expert on Lane Kiffin's offense, and I wouldn't claim to be an expert on Kyle Shanahan's. But I've listened to people, Chris Sims, for example, who are very close to Kyle Shanahan, sort of explain his offense in a basic term for those of us who are not professional coaches and X's and O's experts. That basically what you have to do in Kyle Shanahan's offense is he will tell you where he wants the ball to go, and you have just got to read a certain defender. What's this linebacker doing? What's this cornerback doing? And off that one read, you will know where to go. It's either sort of A, B, or C based off that one read that you are getting. And you've just got to go. And he expects you to go out there and deliver the ball as he is called, because he set everything up for you. That's essentially how Kyle Shanahan's offense works. And when I watch Lane Kiffin's offense, I think it feels very similar in that regard. I'm not saying that it is similar to the Shanahan offense. I don't know whether it is or not. I've not studied it closely enough. But when watching him, it looks very much like he is sort of reading keys and then sort of making the throw that his offense tells him to make. And in this article, there was talk that he understands his offense very, very well, but is he going to be able to handle a much more complex offense at the next level? There's maybe a little bit of doubt about that. So we will see. That could be an issue there for Matt Corral. But it's going to be a much bigger issue for Malik Willis, I'll tell you that now, based on all of the things that I've seen from him. So I'm not 100% sold that they're going to go after Matt Corral for those reasons. But I think that there is a reasonable chance that they will take a shot at one of these quarterbacks. We have to mention the fact that Carroll was pictured having his little meeting with Lane and Monte Kiffin, and Matt Corral was there at the combine. And there has been a little bit of speculation report from Charlie Campbell that they do like Matt Corral. So I don't think it's a shoo-in. I think there's a chance that you can make a case for each of the top four quarterbacks in this draft being interesting to Seattle. In this particular mock draft, I've got them moving up for Matt Corral, which, funnily enough, I don't know if you noticed this, the Pro Football Network simulator actually has him as the 9th best player in this draft. So just be ready for that, Seahawks fans. If they think that Matt Corral is a top player in this draft, they might take him at number 9. Because if you think he's a future franchise quarterback, don't mess around. I mean, think about it now. If they'd have taken Russell Wilson where they took Bruce Irvin in 2012, they had the number 12 pick and moved down to 15. If they'd have taken Bruce Irvin at number 15 or number 12, sorry, if they didn't Russell Wilson at 15 or number 12, a lot of people would have complained and said, what are they doing? What are they doing? And then they'd have been proven right, wouldn't they? Because it really, really worked. So if you think this guy is the business, or if you think one of these other quarterbacks are, and they take them at 9, it's hard to argue against it if it then works out. So we'll see what happens there. And look, I said it on the blog earlier today. If free agency starts next week and they sign Chandler Jones, that's a big sign that they might be going quarterback at number 9. If they don't sign a pass rusher at all, because they've said, Clinton Hurts specifically said they want a game wrecker across from Darrell Taylor. If they don't sign that guy, then it's very clear that they're probably going to take one at number 9. Just saying. But I've got Matt Corral here, and your first 2 picks are Jermaine Johnson and Matt Corral. Let's move on then. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are number 27. Remember, I'm going to go through to Seattle's pick at round 3. I'll speed through some of these in the second round that maybe are less interesting to our particular audience. So they may well lose their center. Tyler Linderbaum, who I think is a little bit overrated, the center from Iowa. I've got him going there at number 27. He's very small, very short arms, didn't test at the combine. For me, could last into round 2, but I'll put him here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they replace their center, Kelly, who's moving on. it seems, potentially. We'll see what happens next week. Number 28, Green Bay. They could go in a number of different directions here, but Perrin Winfrey running in the 4.8s, had a 1.6 split on a 40 that he got injured on at the combine. Those are elite times for a guy who's 290 pounds. I think if you put him on your defensive line next to Kenny Clark, and with the edge rushers they've got there, Rashawn Gary's definitely going to be there. One of the two Smiths are going to be there, if not both. Then I think you could have a very dangerous defensive line, having already retained Aaron Rodgers. The offense is going to be good, so that'd be very dangerous for them. They'd be a tough opponent there. Miami at 29 could go in a number of different directions. I've got them taking an offensive lineman, Bernard Ryman, who has not had a particularly great Senior Bowl, but tested well at the combine. He's got short arms, but they took Liam Eichenberg a year ago, so they're obviously not too bothered about that. The same GM still there in Miami, even though the coach has changed. Kansas City at number 30. It seems likely that they're going to cut Frank Clark in the next few days to save money. They've got to save money. Arnold Ebiketie could be a potential replacement for Frank Clark there off the edge. 31, Cincinnati. I'm going to presume that they're going to address the offensive line in free agency, and therefore I'm going to have them taking a cornerback here, Kaiir Elam, who was a guy I was rating much lower earlier on, but he ran well at the combine. I thought he looked quite a lot smoother than I expected, and this is the kind of player and the position that the Cincinnati Bengals have drafted early in the past, so I'm going to have him at 31. And to round out the first round, the Lions need receivers. Drake London's still there. We'll give them Drake London as we go into round 2. So keep those super chats coming in. Keep those messages coming in. I'm seeing that somebody here is, I think, describing Matt Corral as Mark Sanchez 2.0. I don't think they're similar players at all, though. Mark Sanchez was nowhere near as mobile and as athletic as Corral. Neither did he have Corral's arm. You know, for me, Corral's a better comparison is a more athletic, stronger-armed Jimmy Garoppolo. And to be honest with you, some of the flaws are there as well. Corral overthrows players from time to time. There are some slight accuracy issues. He's had some turnovers in his career that you're sort of left thinking, you know, what the heck's he seeing there? What's he doing? So I think that is a valid comparison, but he is far better physically. So people will be scared off by that comp, but he is physically superior. And Garoppolo has been the quarterback of a team that has been to the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl in the last 3 years. So, and I'm not saying Garoppolo is good. I'm just saying that that's sort of the idea that I'm sort of thinking of here, much more so than Mark Sanchez. People really not liking that pick there, by the way. But look, it is what it is. I'm not going to pick him there every time. It'll be different options as we move forward. And they may trade or sign a quarterback in the next week, and that will change absolutely everything. Into round 2 then. Jaguars need a tight end. Greg Dulcich is not going to last at 88. He's the first tight end off the board here to the Jaguars at 33. Lions have got a receiver now. They've got a pass rusher. Let's give them Devin Lloyd here to play linebacker. Fills a need for them. The Jets back on the board again. They badly need a tight end. There's been a lot of talk that Jeremy Rucker is their guy. He is not going to last to 101. He goes here at 35. Very athletic. Didn't work out at the combine. Will have a good pro day in my expectation. Keeping on with the tight ends, we're going to have a bit of a run on here. Trey McBride goes off the board here to 36 as New York continue to build around their quarterback and try and give him some support. And look, it might not be Daniel Jones. There's a lot of talk that they're going to go after Mitchell Trubisky as well, who's worked with Brian Daboll in the past in Buffalo as the backup there to Josh Allen. 37 in Houston. Cornerback here. Didn't work out at the combine. Andrew Booth. We'll see what he does at pro day. I've got him going at number 37 here to Houston. The Jets back on the board again. Lots of Jets picks in this range. I am having to go all the way down here to 98, which is ridiculous to find Channing Tindall. I think he's going to go in this range. He is an absolutely fantastic player, and that will be a home run pick there for the Jets at number 38. 39, and the Bears. Going to go with a player who I'm guessing I'm going to have to come all the way down here for if he is even on the list. I'm looking in the wrong position. It would help if I've got the right position. I'm looking for a cornerback, not a linebacker. Let's shoot back up and see if I can find him. Jalen Amore Davis, rated at 142 here. I've got him going at 39. I think he is a fantastic talent. And I think that would be a great pick for the Bears there, who need to rebuild and need to shape things up. And we've got a new defensive coach. Yes, they've got to build around their quarterback. Yes, they're freeing up money and collecting picks in order to do that. Even so, they need the picks. And I'm well aware that I'm guessing this hasn't changed. So the Bears are probably not going to have the Chargers. So that'll be a Bears pick at 48 there, because we know that has now gone to the Bears for Khalil Mack. Titans on the clock. I've got Titans on the clock. I'm going for a center because their center is a free agent as well. Let's see if I can find him on here. I'm not hopeful that he's not listed there. Is he listed as a guard? He may well be. Cole Strange. Good Senior Bowl. Very explosive tester. Got him going at number 40. And I think he could potentially be an option for the Seahawks if they don't move up, if they're 40-41, if they're not taking a quarterback here. Cole Strange could be an option for them. Seahawks at 41 then. I'm going to have them go linebacker here, given that Bobby Wagner is gone now, which I think was the right decision, by the way. Absolutely. His play deteriorated. He wasn't making enough plays. He was playing hesitant. They saved $16.6 million. Go and spend that at other positions and get a young linebacker from this great group. That is the plan, I think, and I hope. And it was just an amazing workout session amongst the linebackers. And I want to tap into that group again. And I'm going to take Leo Chenal. Now, Leo Chenal, I've got the numbers here. I'm going to read them out for you at his pro day. He ran a 3.94 short shuttle at his pro day this week and a 6.84 3-cone. Why is that important? Well, people like Cody Barton and Ben Burke-Kirvin and Kevin Pierre-Louis and people like this have run particularly fast short shuttles and 3-cones. And they have put a lot of stock into agility testing over the years at this position. So he didn't do any of the agility testing at the combine. He does it at his pro day. He runs a sub 4.00. That is going to get him on Seattle's radar. On top of that, he's incredibly aggressive, blitzed a lot at Wisconsin, admittedly, played downfield, tax ball carriers, slightly different than what Seattle has been using. But if you want to play aggressive football and you want to have to get after it and you want to do a bit more blitzing, try and create pressure in different ways, Leo Chenal will be a fantastic pick for that. And his frame's a little bit unorthodox, slightly shorter legs, slightly longer torso, but testing through the roof, great size. You could plug him at middle linebacker and keep Jordan Brooks where he's been playing. I think that would be a really good pick for the Seahawks there at 41. On to the Colts at 42. The Colts at the moment don't have a quarterback. Maybe that will change over the next week. Maybe it will change for the Seahawks. But while they do not have a quarterback, I'm going to have them taking one here. I'm going to have them taking Desmond Ridder, not Kenny Pickett, certainly not Sam Howell, I think kind of like fourth round range, certainly not Carson Strong. Desmond Ridder comes off the board at 42. They've got to start taking some shots in the draft to try and find a quarterback, not just kind of like bringing in these older guys all the time and trying to do it that way. Atlanta at 43. Yes, they need receivers, plural. They've got one in the first round. They need a pass rusher. But I think here, they need skill players. They need some weapons. I've got them taking Breece Hall, who had a fantastic combine. Cleveland 44. Another pass rusher here. Forget Clowney, they probably won't need it, but Sam Williams, 1.60, 10-yard split the combine means that he goes before George Karlaftis, who I still think he's going to go. Can you remember AJ Epineza is not a similar player to George Karlaftis, but I still think that the fact that AJ Epineza was being ranked as like he's a top 20 player, and you see him being mocked as a top 20 player, and he ends up sort of going 50-odd in the second round. I think the same is going to happen with George Karlaftis. I think a lot of people are sort of mocking him top 15, top 20, and I think he's going to last deep into round 2. So we'll see what happens. I've got him going to the Ravens at 45. 46 Minnesota, one of my favorite players in the draft. If I can find him here, where is he? Down at 187 for some reason. Joshua Paschal, inside-out rusher, fantastic, very, very explosive, amazing against the run. Will be a great pick for Minnesota and fills a need for that kind of 5-tech inside-out rusher type. Washington up next, I think it is. Yeah, it's Washington next. And they badly need an inside linebacker. So we've got to go and find one for them. There is a good one still available. There's more than a good one available. Quay Walker is not going to last to 80. He goes at 47. to Washington. Chargers at 48. They need a linebacker as well. Nakobe Dean only measured 5'11" and about 220 pounds. I think that's going to impact his stock a little bit. The fact they didn't test at the combine as well means that I think he might stick on the board a bit longer and go. Of the 3 Georgia linebackers, he might have been the storied one. He might have been the guy winning the awards in his final season, but I think he might go off the board after Quay Walker and after Channing Tindall. New Orleans at 49. This is where I've got Kenny Pickett coming off the board here. They need to take some shots at quarterback in the draft. 50 for Miami. Again, they could go in a number of different directions. I'm going to have them taking Troy Anderson here, who's had a fantastic combine and a really good Senior Bowl. 51 for Philadelphia. Let's keep the linebackers going. Christian Harris, they badly need a linebacker and they love speed. He'd be a great fit for the Eagles. 52 Pittsburgh. Daxton Hill didn't have a great combine. He was expected to take the roof off Lucas Oilfield. Didn't do it. So I've got him falling a little bit here to 52 and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who need a safety. 53 Las Vegas. Obviously, they've had a few issues at that franchise over the last year. They need a receiver. And Jahan Dotson is a great pick for them here based on the way that he tested at the combine. 54 New England. One of my favorites. Nick Cross, who for some reason I have no idea why he's been graded at 192 overall on the Pro Football Network board, because he's not going to last to 192. No chance. Had a sensational combine. His tape is really good. He's going to go in round 2. Ran brilliantly at the combine and he hammers people. He's kind of like that hybrid Patriots defender that everybody knows about now. So I think he'd be a great fit for them. Arizona at 55. Could lose James Conner. Go and get a replacement. Running back, Kenneth Walker looks like a dude. He looked fantastic at the combine. 55 to Arizona, he goes. 56 Dallas. Building up that offensive line. Again, Cam Jurgens. Great pick, great value pick for Dallas here at 56. Take a right tackle, first pick. Center at 56 afterwards. Buffalo. Let's go and give him a corner. Tariq Woolen ran well, but he's a little bit stiff. Needs some development there. Atlanta back on the board. Time for them to go on and have a look at the pass rush. Logan Hall. Yeah, they need an edge rusher. They'll get one later. Logan Hall, 58 there is just a good value pick at the end of round 2. 59 Green Bay. Go and get a weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Jalen Tolbert, very smooth, reliable player. I think he's a kind of guy that Aaron Rodgers will really warm to and can rely on early in his career. 60 Tampa Bay. Go and get a safety partner for Antoine Winfield Jr. And the guy that I'm going to give them is Brian Cook, who is flying well under the radar. Definitely warrants a 2nd or 3rd round grade, not whether PFN had him rated there. I've got him going at number 68 to Tampa Bay. 61 Niners. Not sure he's their type of cornerback, but I want to put him in this range anyway. They need one. Roger McCreary here, very physical, great in man coverage. Just finds a way to make a play on the ball at the last minute. I think he'd be a good pick for the Niners there at 61. 62, Kansas City. They need a safety because Tyrann Mathieu might be leaving in free agency. So Jaquan Brisker, not quite as good as I think a lot of people are rating him. I think late 2nd round is fair value. Here, the Bengals, DeMarvin Leal. The idea of DeMarvin Leal is better than the reality of DeMarvin Leal. But I think here in late round 2 is the kind of player the Bengals like to take a chance on. I could see them going in that direction. And then the Denver Broncos are on the board for the first time. And I'm going to make their first pick an offensive lineman to help out Russell Wilson, who is going to need that help as well after the big trade today with Khalil Mack joining Joey Bosa. So there we go. So that's the 2nd round. I am going to do a few more picks. So the Seahawks pick at 72. That is when I'm going to stop this. That is when we will finalize what the Seahawks have done. And we'll have a look. We'll have a little chat about it. We'll talk about a couple of free agency things, and then we will wrap this up. So into round 3. Jacksonville, get some more weapons for Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to have Alec Pierce, the receiver from Cincinnati, go in this spot. I'm going to keep the receivers going here. Treylon Burks had a terrible combine and a terrible pro day. I can't have him going here. I'm going to go down the board and find Wan'Dale Robinson, who's got the same kind of stocky frame as Golden Tate, ran very well as well. I think he's an underrated player, as is Damian Pierce, the running back from Florida, who I've got here going in. And whether they trade Saquon Barkley or not, they need somebody else because he is always injured. I think Damian Pierce is a good complement or a good lead backer if needs be. And I think that would be a good value pick. Now I've got Treylon Burks coming off the board. to the Houston Texans here at number 68. Talked about him already. Poor combine, poor pro day. 69 to the Jets. Jets love athletic, explosive offensive linemen. That is what they have focused on. And that is what I'm going to have them taking here if I can find the guy. Zach Tom, rated at 171. He's not going to last that long. Really impressed with his tape at left tackle at Wake Forest, but he's got the size of a centre. Still got long enough arms, 33 plus inch arms, and very, very explosive. And I think he'll be a great pick for the Jets here to move him permanently inside. Jacksonville at 70. Go and get a cornerback, one of my favourites. Very, very physical player. Love what I saw on tape from Cam Taylor-Britt. Fantastic player at number 70. Bears at 71. I'm going to have them take a receiver here to support Justin Fields. And it's going to be Christian Watson, who I think is a very impressive player. Look, I'm got him at 71 here. Don't be surprised if he goes a lot earlier than that. And then the Seahawks, their final pick in this particular projection that we're doing on this video is going to be a running back, because we don't know what's going to happen with Rashad Penny. Even if Rashad Penny comes back and you trust him to stay healthy, if he comes back, it's probably going to be on a one-year deal. Is Chris Carson coming back? Can he stay healthy? The Seahawks, if they're going back to sort of Pete Carroll football, they need a really talented, reliable running back. And in round 3, I'll happily take one who is as talented as this. Now, they're rating Zamir White at 152 overall. I think that's a nonsense. I think he's going to go a lot earlier than that. I felt a bit guilty having him on the board at 72, because in the last mock draft I did, I had him at the end of round 2, and I've put him with the Seahawks here because I want to talk about him a little bit. But I think he could go higher than this, certainly. What a player. You know, very patient as he runs up to the line of scrimmage, sifts through his holes, gets very skinny through the gaps to explode through them, get to the second level. He's got a burst of speed, running the 4.4s at the combine. When he takes contact, he gets more yards after contact. He always falls forward. I love his personality. I love his voice. I love his backstory. He's come through a lot. I think Zamir White has a chance to be a franchise running back at the next level. And the Seahawks need someone who can perhaps take on that mantle moving forward. Hopefully Rashad Penny comes back and it can be him. If it's not, because he can't stay healthy or he goes somewhere else, I'd love to see Zamir White in Seattle, and I'd have no issue taking him there. So these are the 4 picks that I've gone with the Seahawks. At 152, I'd be looking at someone like Smoke Robinson. I think he's a very physical, tough safety. And if Quandre Diggs moves on, I think he could be an option. Even if you just use him for special teams initially, I think he could be a really good pick there. Someone like Ed Ingram, maybe at 153, if they're going for more athletic offensive linemen. And, 227, I think you're looking for someone who can contribute on special teams more than anything. But they're the 4 picks that I'm actually going to make here and talk about. Jermaine Johnson, get a game wrecker alongside Darrell Taylor, 2 great edge rushers. Make Jermaine Johnson and Darrell Taylor the heartbeat of your team in that locker room moving forward as you develop a new young core. Matt Corral, moving up from number 40 to get him. I think his competitiveness and his arm strength will appeal to the Seahawks, as will the glowing reference from Lane Kiffin to Pete Carroll. Leo Chenal, they need a linebacker after moving on from Bobby Wagner. Go and get one from this great class. I think this is the range to go and do it. Don't wait on that position. And although there are some good options at 72, in fairness, in this projection that I've done here, Chenal's got the agility testing they love in the short shot and the 3-cone, and he's physical, and he's a tone setter. I think he'd be a great pick. And then Zamir White at 72, I think is a terrific, underrated player. And that is who I'm going to go with there. Because, you've got a nice balance there. You've got 2 defensive players, 2 offensive players. You start off your reset, rebuild, restart, whatever you want to call it, with 2 players on each side of the ball. And if you've noticed as well, so that famous Seahawks 2012 draft involved them taking an edge rusher, Bruce Irvin, quarterback Russell Wilson, and a linebacker, Bobby Wagner. And the first 3 picks here are an edge rusher, Jermaine Johnson, a quarterback, Matt Corral, and a linebacker, Leo Chenal. Let's hope that these 3 can be as successful as those 3 if they ended up being the picks. So that's what I'm going to go with there. Hope you enjoyed the mock draft, guys, and it was informative and gave some indication on sort of how I'm feeling about things. If you have questions, I'll happily do another 10 minutes to do a round hour with you. If you want to send those questions in about free agency, about the draft, about what is going to happen moving forward, I'm happy to answer those now. If you do it in a super chat, it helps me sort of identify it a little bit better. So would appreciate those coming in too. But if you've got some questions, send them in. I mean, to give you some thoughts, the main thing sort of coming away from everything of what has happened over the last 2 days is, first of all, I think it's a really positive thing that the Seahawks have just made a call. They could not carry on with another year of this drama and this saga surrounding Russell Wilson. They either had to be committing to him, signing a new contract, or they had to move him on. They've made a call on that. And look, people might disagree with the decision they've made, but they had to make a decision either way. And they've done it, and they've made the call. And I think that's the right thing to do. And I'm pleased that they have done that. So kudos to them for that. Kudos to them as well for being very mature and realistic about Bobby Wagner. His play has dipped, and it's important to acknowledge that. And yes, he's going to be a legend. And I understand that people are very upset that Bobby Wagner is gone. But if you actually go and watch his tape, it is completely justified. You could not pay him that money. I didn't want to extend him. I didn't want to even lower his cap hit. I just wanted to move on. I'm glad that they've done that. Go and get a young linebacker who is fast, aggressive, and violent in this draft class. I think it was the right decision. I think we have to applaud them for making big calls this week in order to move forward with new resources, which they've got. So, positives there. My concern, though, is what happens next. Is if they go into free agency next week, target some guys in their mid-20s, and I can list some names for you that I would quite like to go for. If they do that, then happy with that. Because I think if you're going to add aggressively moving forward now in this offseason, I'd rather it be in the form of spending money in free agency, because you've got, I think it's something like $40 million to spend this year and $120 million to spend next year. So you could do low cap hits this year, big cap hits next year, and you can bring some talent in. And when I talk about guys in the mid-20s who you can grow with, it's a Carlton Davis, the cornerback at Tampa Bay, Christian Kirk, the receiver at Arizona, Travarius Ward, the cornerback, Brian Allen, the center, Austin Corbett, the guard, Bradley Bozeman, who's been playing center at Baltimore, DJ Jones, the great blossoming defensive tackle from San Francisco. Always good to steal a player from them. Dante Jackson, the cornerback, Michael Gallup, who looks like he's going to re-sign in Dallas, so he's not going to be attainable, I don't think. Russell Gage, who's played well as a receiver in Atlanta. Joseph Noteboom, the tackle for the Rams. Justin Reed, the safety, and Cedric Wilson, the receiver at Dallas. They're the kind of guys that I'm talking about. I don't want to spend money on aging veterans. I want a new, young, hungry, developing core that want to be part of a team that is moving on after Russell Wilson and wants to shock the world over the next sort of 2 or 3 years. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with this. What I don't want them to do is go and blow money on aging veterans and try and create a team on the run that won't be able to contend in 2022, but they'll build it as if they can, if that makes sense. This embrace the fact that this is a 2-3 year process and add players who are going to be with you 2 or 3 years down the line, not just add players who are going to be here this year because you've got this really ridiculous hope of competing against the Rams and the Niners and the Cardinals at a top level this year. Go and get a young core, start afresh, and use your draft picks in the draft. Don't feel like you've got to go and bring in an expensive, experienced player for the sake of it. When I saw that Khalil Mack trade, I was delighted the Seahawks didn't go down that road. I do not want them doing anything like that. Second-round picks for 31-year-old pass rushers. Not for me. Not for me. Go and use your picks in the draft and build a young core. And I would rather them do that. And if it means a year of Drew Lock or a year of Tyrod Taylor or a year of Jameis Winston, I will live with it. So I will take the pain of this year, get a high pick next year, continue this build, and see what goes. There's no point pretending that getting somebody else in now. And I definitely don't want Deshaun Watson, because if you bring Deshaun Watson and use all your stock, what have you got? You've got Deshaun Watson and a crap roster. And there's no point having that. That you trade for someone like Deshaun Watson when you've actually got the supporting cast and he's the finishing. So you do what Denver has just done with someone like Deshaun Watson. And that's assuming all of his legal case gets cleared and that he doesn't have a suspension or that his suspension is over. You have the roster in place and then you trade for someone like Deshaun Watson. What you don't do is have some stock, which they've got now because of this trade, obviously not as much because of the Jamal Adams trade, and then go and give it all to Houston and say, great, we've got a quarterback, but we've got nothing else. Right now, their left tackle is a free agent, their center is a free agent, their right tackle is a free agent, their free safety is a free agent, their top cornerback's a free agent. They've just cut their starting middle linebacker. The running back's a free agent. If you bring in Deshaun Watson, who's he playing with? He's basically got DK and Tyler Lockett and not a lot else. Where's the defense? Where's the running game? Where's the O-line? So there's no point doing that trade, which all these people are getting tied up saying, this is going to happen. This is it. You know, everyone I speak to says they're going to go after Deshaun Watson. I'm sure they'll do their due diligence, but they're in no fit state to make a trade like that right now because they just wipe out all of their draft stock. It'd be very expensive. It would cost money. I don't think there's a cat in hell's chance they're going to go after Deshaun Watson. I don't think that's likely at all. And I think they've got a plan, and it could be that they bring in someone like Kirk Cousins. Carroll loves him, apparently, and have a look at him this year and then make a call in the offseason whether they want to keep him or move on because he's got 1 year left on his deal. Or they're going to draft somebody, and it'll be Drew Lock competing with a rookie and somebody else, either Jacob Eason or another experienced veteran. That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I hope is going to happen. I hope they're going to be very mature and patient about this and build a young team through the draft. That's how you win in the NFL. You build through the draft. You complement it with free agents. That's how they won before. They won before because they drafted Richard Sherman and KJ Wright and Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner and, you know, Golden Tate and that's it. And they traded for Marshawn Lynch for a bag of footballs. And then when they were in the position to be aggressive in 2013, they went and got Percy Harvin. Yeah, okay, that didn't work. And then they signed Michael Bennett and Cliff Abel to finish everything off. That's when you start being aggressive. Sort of like 2-3 years in, not now. But I'm encouraged because in 2010, you know, they met with Brandon Marshall and didn't make that trade. And they could have done. They could have given away a first-round pick for Brandon Marshall. They didn't. They resisted that temptation, and he went to, where was it, Miami instead. So I'm confident they're going to be patient, understand the situation, use the picks in the draft, hopefully be sensible in free agency, and then they can move forward. So we'll see. Right, questions coming in. So I'll go to some of these. Keep the super chats coming in too. Tommy says, do you think there was any chance we trade back at 9, maybe with the Eagles, and pick up an extra second or third? I mean, there's always a chance that John Schneider's going to trade down, yeah. So I definitely wouldn't rule it out. And I think Jermaine Johnson's a top 10 pick. Jermaine Johnson might be there in the mid-teens. Some other people don't think he is. Pro Football Network had him at 22. So I think there's a chance that you could trade down and still get it. And if that's possible, do it. And if you want a quarterback and you think, okay, we're not going to take the quarterback at 9, but we do want to move down and take him there, then they could take that as well. So yeah, I think there is a chance they can move down. I just don't know if there's going to be that much movement in the first round. You know, the real value is in the second and the third round. Is a team really going to want to give up a second or third round pick in this draft to move up, 5-6 spots? I mean, they'd have to really want somebody. And usually you do that for quarterback. I'm not sure. And if you do that with Philadelphia, you might be losing the pass rusher that you want. So I'd be very, very careful about that. I'd rather just spend number 9 on the best pass rusher that's there. Isaac Gill says, do you prefer Zamir White over Dameon Pierce at this point after more research? But I really like Dameon Pierce, and he's got the heart of a lion, and he's the kind of sort of running back that they love in terms of physicality and explosives and size. But the difference between Zamir White and Dameon Pierce is Dameon Pierce was given like a handful of carries at Florida. So I don't have the tape evidence over the course of like a full season to analyze him, but I have got that on Zamir White. And he ran faster, and he's a similar size, and he's as explosive. So do I prefer Zamir White over Dameon? I've got Zamir White probably graded slightly ahead of Dameon Pierce at this point, but I've got them both graded in round 2. I think they're both really good. Kerry says, any chance the Hawks move on from the wrong bird? The peacock. Well, it's been a while since we've been talking about old Jamal Adams, isn't it? So is there a chance? I mean, should we have a look at this classic Jamal Adams moment? Yeah, that's what 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick gets you. Is there any chance they move on? I mean, I would have said no, a huge dead hit. But then Curtis was saying earlier in the comments on the blog that as long as a team was willing to take on essentially his huge bonus money of about $12 million or something, or whatever it was, then it would only cost you an extra $7 million to move on from him. Now, what you would actually get for that, I am not sure. And it's not as if the other team's getting a massive discount and you're kind of like buying a draft pick. And I don't really know why anybody would want to give up a pick in this draft for Jamal Adams. So is it likely? No. If they could get out of it, would they? Probably. Would I take a 4th round pick for him at this point just to move on? Yes, because I think the problem is he's become a meme. You know, he's become a bit of a joke, really, the Jamal Adams thing. You know, everyone, the trade was no good. You know, he's not performing. Now he's injured again. His career's sinking like a stone. It hasn't worked for Seattle. It's a bad investment. He needs a fresh start. Seattle needs to move on. I think you've just got to wipe the slate clean and move on. And he needs it. He needs a fresh start. Seattle needs to move on from it. If he's playing and it's not good next year, then it's just going to linger like a bad smell. It's just everybody needs a clean, fresh start. And I think they should just move on and find a way to do that. But whether they can or not, whether someone's willing to take him on and that bonus money, I don't know. And if they're not, you ain't moving him on for $28 million. You're not spending $28 million to get rid of Jamal Adams. So you might be stuck with him. Brandon says, love watching Smoke Monday play. Do you think with this potentially new look defense, Carroll still wants that free safety that flies around like Earl or Diggs? Or would Smoke be able to coexist with Adams? Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. We just kind of need to see what this defense looks like because we're hearing about all these changes, but it's still Pete Carroll's team. It's still his defense, isn't it? So I'm not sure. I would suspect they probably do want a free safety who can fly around a little bit. Well, then Quandre Diggs isn't the fastest guy in the world. You know, he's got a knack to be around the ball, but he's not fast. He's not like a 4-4 runner. I mean, let's have a look. I'll see if I can find what his time was, either at a combine or a pro day, to sort of have a look here. I've got it on here. So I think he ran a 4.56. So he ran, yes, he ran a 4.56 at the combine. So, yeah, not slow, but not lightning fast either. And let's have a look at Smoke Monday's time. He ran a 4.52. So Smoke Monday actually ran a slightly faster 40 than Quandre Diggs. They're talking about the turf was a lot faster at Indianapolis now. So if you want to put 0.5 a second on there, he's almost in the exact same ballpark as Quandre Diggs. So maybe he could play alongside Jamal Adams if he stays. But if they want some speed, you know, there are other safeties who could do that. Nick Cross ran a 4.34 in the end. You know, Percy Butler's a guy I like for special teams, but maybe have a look at him as a 4.36 runner as well. Jaquan Brisker 4.49. You know, Tyson Anderson 4.36. He looked really impressive. JT Woods at Baylor 4.36. Jalen Petrie didn't run, so we don't know about him. You know, he gets a lot of love. Kirby Joseph didn't run. I really like him. So I'm not sure whether that sort of blazing speed's going to matter as much, but then Quandre Diggs wasn't a blazing speed merchant himself. So you don't want Chandler Jones, which makes sense. It's not that I don't want Chandler Jones. I mean, who doesn't want Chandler Jones? But the point is, now you've got the number 9 overall pick. If you can get a pass rusher there who is a lot younger and cheaper than Chandler Jones, wouldn't you rather do that? I mean, that's what it comes down to, really, in the end. Tommy says, yeah, I've had enough of aging vets. Yep, completely agree with that. Kyle, thanks for your message. Yeah, I need some sleep. I've had about 9 hours sleep in the last 2 days. I need to sleep. So we're going to wrap this up very, very soon, I promise. John says, Matt Corral, 215, with 10 pounds of water in his belly and weights in his shoes. Well, maybe, you know, 205, 215, whatever. I mean, Russell Wilson was about, let me find out what Russell Wilson was at his combine. Russell Wilson was a lot smaller when he entered the league than where he ended up now. So let me get this up here. This is Russell Wilson's combine. Russell Wilson weighed 204 pounds at his combine. And no one's been worried about his weight, have they? So I'm not going to, you know, you can put on a bit of muscle. There's no problem with that. Okay, a lot of questions. Wow, there's so many questions coming in now. I'm going to have to be very picky. Curtis says, secondary thoughts. If Adams is so upset at being a rebuilding team again, he'd be willing to rework his contract for the new team that might be a workable solution. Fingers crossed. I don't know why he wouldn't want to move on, frankly, right now. Go and play for the Ravens. Go and play for somebody else that kind of suits him and move on. He needs a fresh start. It's not worked. It's just been a bad trade all round. He needs to move on. This one from Corey says, I've seen a few mocks with George Karlaftis from Purdue going to the Hawks at 9. He reminds me of a poor man's Nick Bosa, but could pair with Darrell Taylor. What do you think, Rob? Corey, I'm not a big fan. I mean, I like the way he's very aggressive off the line. Certainly, there's some snaps on tape where he's a brute and he's very physical and he shows a bit of quickness, but his sack numbers were low this year. He doesn't have the length that Seattle likes, and he didn't test as well as expected at the combine. So, you know, I'm not 100% sure on that one. Wyatt S says, "Hey Rob, any way to get your live YouTube videos on a podcast app after?" Yeah, people mention this. I am not tech savvy enough to know how to get this on Apple iTunes and stuff like this. We've kind of played around and looked at potentially doing it. Robbie and I, if anybody wants to help with that or give me any advice, send me an email. My email address is on the blog, so you can do that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure personally on how to do that, but I'll look into it and I want to be able to do it. So it's an intention, not something we've done just yet. Big Mike says Kenneth Walker in round 2 and then your linebacker in round 3. Could be an auction. Big Mike, I thought Kenneth Walker looked like a real dude. He just looked like a stud in his appearance and the way that he worked out at the combine. So I think that he could be really good. I don't know if this is addressed to me. Are you a Broncos fan? No, I am not. I am not a Broncos fan. I am not, Dean. No. Okay, we're getting to the end here. I'm afraid we take Corral at 9, coached by Lane, who was mentored by Pete, was mentored by Monte. Just seems too logical in a nepotism kind of way. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, I've skipped through quite a few questions here because we're coming to the end. I'll just get through a couple more comments that will wrap up. This one from Daniel says, I see the Seahawks trading down to the Steelers at 20. Third this year, plus a future first. Steelers want to leap over the Commanders, taking Willis. Carson is a 1-year rental. Well, maybe, Daniel, but the Steelers GM is retiring after this draft. And the thought process is that, yes, he doesn't want to leave the next GM without a quarterback, but I think he also doesn't want to leave him without future first-round picks. So I don't think the Steelers are going to move up. I think they'll sit at 20 and take whoever is there, or they might make a trade for someone like Jimmy Garoppolo and just sort of push this issue into the future. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for all of your super chats. Thank you for the patience at the start. Again, if you were wondering where I was on the other video, I was actually going to do this another night. I deleted the video on StreamYard. YouTube kept the video up. People were chatting away and sending in super chats in the video. I had absolutely no idea. Thank you to Curtis for raising my awareness on this. So I've jumped on and done this at the last minute. I am going to get some rest. There's a big few days coming up with free agency. It's going to be very, very interesting in terms of what the Seahawks do, in terms of how they spend their money. Please don't waste any picks. We'll see how it goes. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Lots more of these coming up during the off season. Lots of interesting interviews, conversations, mock drafts, debates. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell other people to subscribe and check the channel out. Like the video as well. Share it around. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye for now.